What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Dent Digest live show. I hope you guys are enjoying your evening here. It's a little overcast, but we had some like 60, almost 70-degree weather, so it's been pretty good. Yesterday we had, the typical Midwest monsoon that came through here. So it seems like some of you guys are getting hail, so that's exciting also. Hopefully it's one of those years that everybody just gets crushed and there's no help to be found because everybody's working. So that's the year we're looking for. Now, I do want to get into some industry news. It looks like Matt Moore is having his PDR 101 seminar, and that is June 12th and 13th. So make sure you look into that. It looks like he's got a pretty good lineup of people speaking, and he's trying to put a lot into it. And Matt is super, super detailed with everything he does. We were at the Mega Media event, and I was just struggling to stay with him because he was so detailed oriented and really does a really good job. And he's opened up his new location, so that's super exciting too. So I want to get into this thing. It was I only have one tool for today. So, and it's a tool that I've been waiting for, and you could probably see the title of the show. I've heard talk of this thing for the last 2 years, and I couldn't wait for it to come out. So I called Chad and I said, look, man, as soon as this thing comes out, you got to let me know that you're ready. You got to. So I'm going to bring that thing on. And if you see it, it's the new 2MB1 carbon, I guess it's considered collapsible cart, kind of a modular cart. And one item on that cart that one of the guys has been using, and he's been super, he's been doing a lot of input on the mod rail, and you guys have heard of the mod rails. And he's been putting a lot of time in just creating different ways to mount it, different ways to use it. And when I first saw it, my first take of the mod rail was, I don't know. I don't know if I would use something like that. I've kind of got stuck in my old ways. And so I got this cart 2 days ago or yesterday, one of the days. I don't even know what day it is anymore. But anyway, and I started sticking tools in it. And it's a brilliant idea. There really is some really good options for this thing. So I'm going to bring Matt Boyette on first. Let him kind of get in here because he was super, he's got a lot of info on it and a lot of background. He's used it a ton. And I see a lot of the stuff he does. They have a 2MB1 kind of group, and he always is posting stuff in there. So I want to bring Mr. Matt Boyette in. What's up, Matt?
What's going on? How's everybody?
How's it going in Jacksonville, Florida?
Brutally hot. We're supposed to be in the 90s this weekend. So
you're lucky. You're lucky.
The back of my legs. I wear shorts. The back of my legs, I got the worst farmer tan going on right now.
I want to tell the PDR world how lucky we are to have this industry. And the reason I'm saying that is I've pissed off the Google world, and Mr. Matt Boyette, I'm telling Matt, I'm struggling with this thing with Google, trying to get some stuff straightened out with the location. And he's like, let me send you my buddy's phone number. So he hooks me up with his buddy. And this guy, I'm not going to put his name out there, but this guy has been an absolute godsend. Just true response, true factual info. Hey, do this. Hey, can you do that? So I wanted to thank you just in helping me out because I was struggling. I mean, it was an absolute battle. We're still working through it. It's not completely resolved, but I wanted to thank you. It's just nice that people in the industry we can help each other.
Absolutely. And it's good when you refer somebody and they end up being working out really good. A lot of times you refer people.
I called you the other day and I said, oh my gosh, he's been amazing.
Yeah, dude, he's a good friend and he's the most knowledgeable on that side of it. And I was trying to explain to him, I'm like, man, a lot of us are just dent guys who started businesses and we don't know that whole end of it. And he just brings he's just a godsend to me and to what I'm doing, as you can, testify to. He just knows his stuff. I mean, he's as nerdy about that as we are about tool carts and dent stuff. You know what I'm saying? And
I said, dude, you got to speak English to me. And he's like, I'm like, you're speaking a different language. You know what I mean? I have no clue what you're putting down, but he's a huge help. So, but
as you know, I had a trouble verifying my address at my shop, which was a nightmare because I put my unit number was tagged wrong in the way that I did it. And I couldn't get the postcard to verify it. They send you one in the mail.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it was an absolute nightmare. And, I was going like a month and a half just waiting for this thing. And I finally called Adam and he got on there and he figured it out and he came to my shop and he did so much.
Yes.
There were so many little things that I would have never, ever in a million years figured out that he just went right in there and tweaked and did and got my shop verified. So
it's like every time I look at my Google My Business, something's changed because I've just given him access to get in there and try to, because he's watching it. We're trying to get this thing. It's almost like you're trying to get a pimple to pop is my problem. Is I'm at this point to where I'm trying to get this thing to go. So
yeah,
let's get into the mod rail a little bit before I bring the boys on and really get into this cart. You had one of the first ones that were really out there. And you were telling me, we talked quite a bit and you're telling me, man, this thing's awesome. And then you really got on a roll with mounting it in your shop, mounting it in your truck. And one thing, a lot of people, when they look at this thing, you can see it and you see pictures of it. But one thing that I really, me personally, I didn't understand was how was the foam really holding the tools and how convenient was it? And it's these little blocks that hold the hold the tools. And these are in the mod rail. And you're literally taking it and pushing it in there. Obviously, this is the wrong size, but it holds the tool and it's easy to come out. One thing that I've seen with just having the cart was rolling this cart around is it doesn't make all the ping, ting, 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 sound that you're at a hail thing and there's a million guys rolling carts and all you hear is these tools rolling around. It doesn't make that noise. When you first got it, what was your first thought process?
Well, I want to say one of the first places I use it. So I do a mix of retail and wholesale. So I'm out on the wholesale lots. I'm out on the asphalt. And right now there's little twigs and tree branches and rocks and all these things. And I'm dragging my cart. I'll pull my van up and I'll pull 2 or 3 cars in. And I kind of use my cart to go between these cars in and out, have my glue set up right there. And there's twigs all over and little rocks and pebbles. And I don't load my cart up with a ton of tools. I only load it up with really for my essential stuff. And then I'll add stuff to it throughout the day. But so my cart's always kind of super, super light. But the tools I do have on there, they're not clanking around because I'm rolling over rocks and twigs and everything is solid and tight and where it needs to be. And then, and we're going to get into it with this cart, I'm sure, but I had mine set up on the front of my cart. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like originally because then the handles are facing inside. And I wanted the handles facing towards me. And so I talked to Chad. He's like, dude, put on the back side of your cart. And I'm like, I don't want to reach over my cart to get a tool. Like that seems counterintuitive to how we function. And I did it and started reaching over and it was like, okay, like that feels good. Like it doesn't feel like you would think it's going to feel. Like it made sense. And you reach over and the way it just peels out of that foam, it almost makes more sense than how I was doing it in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like it almost it's like it does make more sense. So you notice that, like I noticed how they peel out, where you're not pulling it out of a hole, you're just kind of rolling it out towards you. And then the next thing, it just kind of peels right out. And the next thing I noticed, because I'm a route guy and I'm working on, I kind of sit on a stool and I'm doing fenders and my cart's up and I'm sitting down low and my cart's high and I can just grab these tools and pull them straight out. I'm not trying to fish it out of a hole while I'm sitting down. I'm literally sitting, 8 inches on the ground and I can just pull this tool straight out and put it right back. And the same with my hammers. And it's all literally eye level when I'm sitting on my stool doing stuff. So little things like that you don't know it. Like if people are watching and they're seeing it sitting there, it's all well and good. But when you get it and you're starting to implement it into what you're doing, little light bulbs kind of like, oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. And you're having little revelations of, oh, that makes kind of sense. Oh, I like that. I dig that. I like how this happens. So it's just those little steps of how it makes more sense throughout the day into what I'm doing that I don't think. I even have some holes drilled in my cart from when I built it originally, and I don't put anything in there. Like I put everything in the mod rails.
It's almost like you need to try it.
You absolutely do.
Because if you don't, you were like me to where I was like, I don't know, I'm not 100%. And then when I stuck a tool in here the first time, I was like, holy crap. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get it now.
And once, because I've had mine for a few months. I don't know exactly how long, but I want to say I've had it, probably 4 or 5 months. And the tools get used to that hole, and it kind of burnishes the when you're putting it in and out every day, it kind of burnishes and it actually gets a little bit more smoother, and it kind of wears in good is what I'm saying. So there's little things like that and I posted it, or I texted this to Chad the other day, because the hole is one shape, right? And it's kind of like this, and it's got that little slit in it, and it's a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch or a quarter or whatever. But then you get these shave tools that are tapered at the bottom, and you can start it because it's small. It's a smaller tool at the bottom, and you start it in that thing, and then it just goes in so smooth, and it widens as the tool gets its shape back, and it just fills that hole. So there's little geeked out things that you'll notice that you will never have noticed, or you could never see from sitting here looking at it online. It's just a really good thing. In my opinion.
And you're big on trying to figure out other ways to use it, not just on a cart. You made a little bracket, and a lot of this stuff you guys can see in that 2MB1 group that they have together. Some really good ideas. So the one thing I talked to Chad earlier, and I said, there's one bad thing about what you guys created. And he's like, what's that? And I said, bro, you're going to have so many people reaching out saying, hey, you should make this, you should do this, do that. So it has to make sense, I'm sure. The good thing was I watched Frank Sosa the last 2 days since he got the cart of different ways. He had the light suction cup to the underside, so it wasn't on a car. He had a hail stand light down inside of one of the legs, one of the hole openings.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to keep seeing this thing grow, which is awesome. But I'm excited. I was excited when I opened up the box. I was like, I even reached out to Todd. I said, bro, you guys put a lot of time into this thing, and it's been 2-year travel and 2 years of beating your heads and a million prototypes wasted. But they really need to get some, appreciation and some applauding, because this product, I remember talking to those guys at MT, and they said it's going to be industry changing. You know what I mean? And they really did it. I mean, this thing, I haven't been so impressed with the product in a long time.
So, I mean, and I'll say it, and I don't want them to say it, but I'll say it. It's really the first tool cart with these holders that's had thought put into it. Like any other really holder is really just holes drilled certain diameters for random tools to drop into. That's not a whole lot of thought or design element to it. Like it's pretty basic in the scheme of things.
Stuff like this.
This is thought out. These holders are designed for what we do. And that kind of gives me some pride, right? Like it's not just something that's just put together. There's a lot of design and thought put into this, which I totally appreciate. And you will too once you utilize it and get it in your hands and start working with it.
Now, I love the cart. Okay, I absolutely love this thing. And I haven't even used it enough to really fine tune it. But there was one thing that came, and it comes with the mod rails, that truly, truly impressed me. I didn't even know about it until it came. And it's such the littlest thing, but this shows you how much detail and time they've put into that. Look at this little thing. Okay, this impresses me. This is the type of stuff that I'm like, okay, this thing is badass. Like, there's no doubt. Full aluminum, little key ring on here. And what this is, okay, there's little nuts on the bottom of that mod rail that I'll show you. And there's Allen keys that come down inside and to tighten it. And you literally just hold this up. You don't have to fight a little socket or a little wrench. Bro, this thing.
That's awesome.
This thing is freaking awesome. So just this tells you the thought, the process that went in there to make it easy. But let's get these guys on so we can get this thing rocking and rolling. Let's get, what's up, Todd? He's got no microphone.
How's it going?
There he goes.
Can you hear me?
Can now, you're good.
Okay.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What's up, Chad?
What's up, guys?
What's up, Chad?
What's up, Matt?
So you guys did a fantastic job. The thought process in the whole thing is really, really, really well done. So you guys really need, when guys get these in their hands, they're like me. They're like, holy crap. You know, just the little minute things you guys did. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
You know, the idea of shrinking down your hood stand, Todd, is awesome too. For one, lightweight, collapses easy, and it's much sturdier than I expected. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have the crossbar in the front. It just has a lower bar, but it's really nice, man. I mean,
Yeah, Chad came up with the idea for the shrinking down the hood stand, and I mean, it was just like instantaneous. Like, hell yeah, that's perfect. You know, because we've told the story before, but we were, you know, we had talked about a cart, and we kind of just, you know, threw out ideas, and we were both on the same page. But we were like, man, that's such a big undertaking. There's no way that's going to be, you know, a couple years out before we even think about starting that. And then when he said, what about your hood stand? And it was like, all right, well, there's half the cart built right there, you know, so it worked out good.
I mean, it's really, really nice.
My thought was that it was weird that we didn't, it was right in front of us, but we didn't see it for whatever reason. And we were designing this much more complex assembly of a cart. But the beauty of it is now, Ryan, you know, once you learn that product and you know how it works, you have the confidence in it. From the end user, they have the confidence to use it, and we had the confidence to build on it. So it was like when you remove that part from the equation, and you know you've got at least a good base to start on, it certainly helps eliminating that much of the solve. There were some tweaks that we had to make and some things that we've had to do, but the components themselves and everything, you know, by now they work, and it just, I'm amazed that we didn't see it earlier for whatever reason, and we spent so much time thinking about the other. But I think it's worked out really well for them to double. And there's just something about them sitting next to each other. They look like they're family members, which I like as well. So,
you know, a lot of guys, I want to get into the details of the cart and kind of go into what I see, kind of like my mini review of it. And one thing I just showed a couple minutes ago, just in some of the details when Matt was talking about, is this was one thing. And, it, you know, we've talked about it before when we went live before. Chad, do you have one that's collapsed over there? And what this is it holds that top half together with those red pins.
That's awesome.
So I thought this was a really, really good idea. The other thing I saw, Frank flipped this over, stuck a pin through it, and put a suction cup here with his light or an umbrella. So this has more options than just holding that thing together.
Yeah, we didn't intend for that, but Frank's been on the ball coming up with some pretty good ideas. So that's what we want from everybody. People to see things in it we're not even seeing. So
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pick this camera up and kind of get into it a little closer, and just explain what I saw that I think really stood out, for one, just in the thought process and the quality. So you guys can talk for 1 minute and I'll get that thing up and running.
So I have a question, guys.
Yep.
How much similarity in parts, like percentage, is that to the hood stand? Like, is it like?
Well, all the carbon, all the corner pieces, pretty much everything. I mean, we did take out one of the telescoping tubes that would raise the hood stand up and down, and we put in aluminum, kind of an aluminum bung to hold the wheel, and then we took out the hinge parts that the hood stand would have, because we didn't need it once you put the top on, because the top stabilized that. So, but all the parts are exactly the same. We just had to basically shorten the X bars.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
yeah, we're good.
All right. So there's a couple things when I first looked at this cart that I really, really liked, was the opportunity to add shelving units in here. And when I first got it, take these out. Now this lower shelf doesn't come with these bins. I actually had these already used for my glue setup, but these little brackets here just have a physical pin, and what this pin does is just sit inside of that opening. So there's a little hole in here and it sits down inside there, lightweight. And what it did was it really strengthened the bottom half of this cart. It just kind of tightened it up even more, which I thought that was a great idea. The other thing is these can move anywhere you want them. So if you want them at the top of the cart, the lower part, or you want to put two shelves, you could move them around. The instructions that came with it were super detailed, but we're guys, we don't ever read instructions. But these, it said to measure. I eyeballed this and it worked out really, really well, without any major issues. Has these two screws that kind of hold this together, and then this seemed to tighten it on the bracket, and that holds the pin for this shelf. The little details with the red bungs at the bottom, the little red right before the kind of like rollerblade wheels, I think was a good idea too. It seems to roll pretty well. And what I was talking about before here, let me unlock it here, is this aluminum pin. Anodized red at the top. And I mean, it's solid aluminum. That was the piece that was holding that X piece in. And you see, I mean, there's not a whole lot of adjustment there. The biggest thing that I really enjoy about this cart is the option part of it. The part of being able to change what tools you put up here, whatever size you want, whatever bins you want up top. The shelving unit at the bottom. Here's one more part that I thought was a brilliant thought for the guys that travel, is they line this upper with foam. And what that does is really keeps all your stuff tight to where if you're traveling, you don't have to worry about it moving around. They also have a lid for this that screws down inside of here in all four corners. But the true functionality of this thing, I mean, even just pulling, and like I said, I haven't used it that much. I mean, it's one-handed. I mean, I just think what you guys brought to the table here in quality and functionality of it, it's brilliant. I think you guys have, and like I said, there isn't a whole lot of banging and chinging from the tools that you hear a lot of times with the TDN carts when all the tools are in those tool holders and they kind of slide around. Matt doesn't have one. What's your thoughts, Matt?
Well, I was going to say, if you can stand right here and reach over and peel a tool out from the other side, like grab that dent slayer right there with the handle on it. Grab the dent slayer and pull the handle to you. Like roll the blade out first, and it just peels out.
I didn't even.
Yeah, and then when you set it in, it just right in. Like those little things, man. Like you don't like. Wow, like that's what I noticed. Little things like that Chad showed me because it's on the opposite side. So,
I think because we've always had the same thing with holes that nobody really knew how good it could get. Even us. I mean, we didn't know that something like that would be so amazing just to be able to peel something out from the backside. But I do it all the time, and it's like when I throw it back on, I just flip it right over and it just snaps right in. I mean, you don't even have to try. You just kind of throw it in there.
Yeah.
Ryan and I spent some time on the phone, and I was on the phone with another guy this afternoon talking about tool layout. And I think, Matt, you hit on it before the show. You hit on it early in the show talking about switching from the front to the back and stuff. I've told everybody that the way I used to set a cart up and the way I laid the tools out according to priority for me is totally different now than it was in any cart that I've had before. And it's all because of how you can get the tool in and out of the holder. It puts really important tools in a different place than they used to be. And it's just like with your cart, Matt. Sometimes that means opening up the front of the cart where you've got access to all the accessories, where maybe some really important tools used to go there. Well, now they can go on the back or the side because they come out really easy. So my cart layout looks totally different than it used to on this cart versus any previous cart that I built or attempted to use. So.
And here's that little thought, that you guys put in, just this little keychain, little bolt holder.
Chad calls that the nutsack.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
That's perfect, man.
That was supposed to stay between us.
Not anymore.
I've been calling it the nutsack for months, and it just stuck. And I don't know. It just is what it is around here. So
that when we were first talking about this, and you guys see a lot of these are loose. A lot of these screws are loose. Told me to leave them loose for a little while until you physically get all of your tools where you think you're going to need them.
Yep.
Because you're going to constantly be moving stuff or eliminating stuff or whatever. So that, if you see where all the bolts are loose, it's a lot of adjustability. I also said that it's going to take me a long time to physically get this sorted out because you're just going to keep trying different things and seeing what works. And Todd and Chad, you've used this for quite a while, correct?
Not really. I've used the rails, for sure. I have a TDN cart I used all this year for hail because we didn't have these ready, but I did have the rails on there, and I mean, so yeah, I've been definitely working with the rails and feeling how they work. But I'm excited to be able to use this cart this year on the hail trail.
This cart has evolved. There's been a number of versions of this that we've tweaked and whatever. I worked hail out of the first or second version, I guess, into last year, and then it just that opened up some ideas and some things, and we made some changes, and it's just constantly turned over to get to this point. So.
And it's probably going to continue to do that, right? I mean, meaning as you've seen the last couple of days since it's been out, like it seems like there's just this evolution of how this is going to, like even that car right there, Ryan's, like that thing's going to change so much. And that's what's cool about it is it's not like a static thing that's what you got and that's it. Like it's going to change. It's going to evolve from the hangers that come out, you know, what, you know, and you guys could elaborate on that, but the different, you know, because you can unbolt each one of these hangers and change it specifically to whatever tools you're going to use, from large rods to slide hammers to glue guns to light boards to whatever you guys got in the cooking. Like that's what's cool to me is that it will evolve, right?
Yeah.
It's like it'll come out of the box and look the same, but I fully expect by the time everybody's done with it that there won't be two of them that look very similar at all, because you could just take it and go your own way with it. And that's been the whole reason we started this journey, and we've put our head down to try to get to this point, because Todd and I really don't want the exact same thing in a cart setup or how we lay out our tools. And there's really no two other guys on the planet that probably do. So why should we have to work out of the exact same platform if we don't set up like that? That's what we've, you know, that's in theory what we've kind of had to do.
Even the rail system that we made, that just specifically looking at the TDN cart, being that our brackets work on the ends of the TDN cart, give it a whole different look, a whole different feel, because before they just had them on the front or the back and not on the sides. And so that totally changes the TDN cart quite a bit. And it's, you know, it's a great platform to work off of. And we just basically added the opportunity of adding another 26 tools to it, to an already great product. You know what I mean? So that's going to change the TDN cart a ton.
Todd, those that you're talking about that would complement the TDN cart, would those be a bolt-on, or would they be that drop-down slide-on application?
They're the drop-down slide-on. They just have that slot in the brackets, and they just slide right over the edge of the extrusion on the TDN cart.
Gotcha.
And they're nice and tight too. So once you put them on, they're snug. They don't pop up and out. Like even with the holders that TDN uses, you know, sometimes you'll get a tool that gets kind of stuck and the whole dang thing comes up, you know. So ours are stuck on there pretty good. So
now, how wide is the wheelbase? Alan's asking.
If you're looking at the picture on the screen, the outside perimeter of that top square that you're looking at is just under 24 inches. So the bottom, you're 22-ish inches on the. It's like 19 and some change center to center on the carbon fiber. So outside you'd be, you know, 21 and some change. So.
And you guys also added, and I actually asked Chad today, you know, you see those little brass nutserts, and they're in the brackets down low, the upper part of the cart. And what I think originally my first thought was, well, that's, you know, more opportunities to make this thing grow. And some of it's functionality, but some of it I was like, that's a great idea. You know, like I know you guys sell, there's like a tray at the bottom for the longer tools to sit in so they don't drag the ground, which bolts into the, you know, what does that bolt into the tray part, correct, Chad?
Yeah, it does. It uses the same brackets. Those two, any of the sides where you've got those two inserts on the brackets for the tray, it'll bolt up there. Any of the four sides that you so choose, or all four, you know, any side you can put it on. Those brackets. There's a funny story. We've told it before a little bit, but that bracket took us down a funny road. Todd and I arguing almost about how to design and accomplish that bracket, but it ended up with those inserts in it for just a feature, just in case if there's an accessory you want to add to it. and it also gives us a standard base, a standard platform to work for in the future. We've got a lot of ideas that now we have 2 points in space that we can work around that all of the accessories will bolt up to. There's a ton of things that we've talked about that may be added to it down the road that will be able to utilize that bolt pattern.
I think the other option is it lets you, if you have something of your own that you want to add to the cart, it gives you that option.
Absolutely. That was our other thought, is some kind of holder you find at Home Depot, or, you know, something you want to make specifically for a heat gun or a torch or whatever. It gives you a out of the box solution to bolt it up without having to start modifying, cutting, piecing together. You know, it's there to use. So.
Yeah.
Options.
Also, incidentally, the little tray we Chad built for the to kind of hold the bottoms of the longer rods, we call the trough. It's about the same width as a like rubbing compound bottle, so it can kind of dove as both. Or you could buy a couple of them, use one for long tools, one for your you know, rubbing compounds and stuff like that. So everything we design on this, or almost everything, and if not, you know, we try to make it multi-use. So
one thing I saw back there in that photo just now, like, you look at those hammers and look at the large, you know, handles on the bottom. If you had to put those in a hole, like a traditional hail cart, like the ones that are out there now, how big would that hole have to be to, you know, to accommodate those hammers? And then when you could drill a hole bigger. Yeah. And so when you drill the hole bigger, then you just weaken that whole structure, right? Like, because you're removing material from those hangers now, and it just makes that so much weaker. Like this, like it doesn't matter the bend on the bottom, getting in and out, like that cherry tip down there you got. It doesn't matter the largeness of the hammer handle. You know, if it's some crazy Stanliner killer whale tail thing, you know, those before mattered, now they don't. That's cool to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know how hard it is. Anything with a 90-degree or even a J hook,
yeah,
how much of a pain in the ass those are to get out of a hole.
Yeah.
Just
especially if you're on a quick bench and whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That was what started this journey for Todd and I. We would talk on the phone while we were working or driving down the road, and before we ever dreamed of getting to this point, and there was this resounding thing that kept coming up. Why are we having to put a 30-plus inch tool with hooks, bends, double bends, and now we've evolved into Stanliner tools with who knows what on the end of it down through a hole? Like there's just got to be a better way. And we said that for a while before we committed to work on it. But I guess it bothered both of us so much. And it's bothered me since I started it. I think it's bothered Todd probably since he started. He's been at it a lot longer than I have. But it's the reason why we're here. Some of the other things are cool. But the reason that this cart exists is to be able to get that tool out from the side without having to take it through a hole. It's like, it was a huge deal for us.
Even a whale tail, like,
absolutely.
And what you're not seeing right there, which you'll see, is that you know, to get you have that slit in the foam, and then you have a hole behind it, so you can slide a whale tail through that slit, and then you twist it, which locks it in that hole, and then you lower it down on that saddle. Like, there's so many little nuances like that you don't like. He doesn't even have a whale tail in it, so he hasn't even seen that part of it yet. Like.
Yeah.
Like that you find out later, it's like, oh wow, you slide it in, it goes right in that slot, and locks in. Twist it and lock it, Ryan, and it like boom, and it's snug. It's awesome.
Yeah, you sent me that video the other day with the shave tools.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, I would say it wasn't really intuitive for me either, even developing it and all of that stuff. It's like the first time you use it and you start to pick it up a little bit and you make that little turn. After you do it a half a dozen times, it starts to get more natural. The next thing you know, a few days later, you're doing that move with a whale tail or a shave tool, it kind of comes up and out and it falls back in and it cams in place and then sits in the saddle and it becomes really natural. And you don't really think about it anymore. You just do it. So
Absolutely.
I tell you, there's a lot of thought in those foams, just the foams and the holders itself. I mean, we went over looking at, how to make the most universal holder. And the holders went through a lot of changes over. I mean, I bet there's at least a dozen changes we went through. And we just couldn't find anything that was universal. And then it kind of hit us about the foam. And then it was how to design the foam properly. And I mean, there's a lot of evolution in every single part on this thing.
There's certain shit. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's right. The only thing that really was kind of already done in standard is what was built on the hood stand. And you see how that's even evolved a little bit, where we removed the front X and removed the lower legs and what else? The hinge parts. I mean, we just, it's like it's gone through a lot, every single part.
Looking back on it, the reason why being able to use the hood stand or it shrunk down, the components of the hood stand, it really changed it. And it wasn't that it made it easier, because there were still things involved. What it allowed us to do is concentrate on the actual problem that was so prevalent to us. It took us having to invest so much time in the actual frame and making something that was sturdy, that would roll around, that would work. It removed a lot of that from the equation and allowed us to focus a lot more energy on the problem that was bothering us the most. And I think that's the biggest benefit from it, is that we've been able to concentrate more on the usability, the actual tool usability, which is, like going back to what I said a minute ago, is the reason why we've spent a year and a half of our life building a tool cart. It wasn't how it rolled around. It wasn't really even how it traveled. It wasn't, all of those things have come into it along the way. It was how it holds that tool and how I have to get it in and out. That's what started it. And that allowed us to focus on that more than any other part of the equation.
What really impressed me, and it was probably one of the smaller parts on it, was putting those brackets for that lower shelf on the stand. And people are probably like, what do you mean? The physical thought process of those two screws going in to where it held those two pieces together, and then the one screw holding the pin and really keeping it to where it keeps it on that, the pole.
We told this story a while back. Those brackets are, it's one of the funniest stories of the whole journey, right, Todd?
Oh yeah. Chad designed those brackets and he designed them in a different way, where they just basically would slip over the tube. And he sent me the pictures, and I'm like, wow, those are awesome looking. I said, but there's one problem. I said, you got to take the whole damn cart apart to put them on. And he's like, what do you just got to take those two X's off and you can slide them down over. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you're on the Hale Trail and you order that shelf and you got to slide those brackets on and you got to tear apart your whole cart, I said, those things are going to go on the shelf and not be touched until the winter. And at least for most guys, because they're not going to take the time to stop, and quit doing Hale for 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever it would take to do it.
Yeah.
So we got to going back and forth fighting about it a little bit.
It had to be square.
Well, no,
that's the funniest part. Because I'm a square guy, he's a round guy. A lot of you guys know that, and with other parts of our PDR world. But I had drawn those brackets. I saw them in my head. I drew them to make them very streamlined, and they actually sort of mimic the lines of the bottom corner on the cart. There was all of this intention in how it looked, and I didn't want any extra bulk or whatever to the bracket. So he said, well, it needs to be easier to take on and off. I said, well, that's going to add a lot of bulk to the bracket, and I'm not going to physically like the look of the bracket. It's going to lose it aesthetically to me. So it just started this back and forth. Well, and I could take it apart
right here.
You got it.
I drew that while we
Yeah.
were on the phone together.
Yeah.
I said, how about something like this? Of course, it's not the same way, but I said, how about something like this? And all of a sudden he lit up finally. And
But it's a perfect example of how this has gone. One or the other of us have presented an idea, and then the other one counters, and then the other one counters back. And that may happen 3 times and we come to a solution. And I would say it could happen 300 times on some of these things that we've gone text to video call to email to CAD session. It's went back and forth like a ping pong table, back and forth until we finally come to an agreement. Not that we're mad at each other, but like we're just convinced if we keep doing that, it's going to end up where we want it. And I say that about those brackets. If I would have done it, they wouldn't have had the inserts in them. The bracket looked good, but us going back and forth, they ended up with the inserts in it. They ended up with more usability. They're easier to install. I could go on and on of how they evolved in a couple of hours of us battling, where if either one of us would have just said it's good enough, it would have been what we look back on now. It would have been a fail. And it's been like that with every single nut, bolt, knob, everything. We don't fight about it. We just go back and forth until it gets better and we can both agree that we're happy.
Well, the name of the company is Two Minds Are Better Than One, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Well, you've also got a couple things here. You get both of you guys have come out with fantastic products, quality top notch, no doubt about that. Customer service top notch. But on your end, Chad, Todd's lucked out because people don't know you are a genius with CAD. Okay. And what happens with CAD is you come up with an idea, you draw it out, you give him the dimensions, you give it to a guy. A couple weeks later, you get a response. It's not what you want. You do it again. It slows the process down. When the mad scientist over there that does not sleep, by the way, you tell him what you think you need. And in a couple hours, he's saying, okay, here it is. So, this team of you two, just imagine if you had to have somebody do the CAD work, bro, this still wouldn't be together.
No.
Here's the deal, though. A long time ago, I saw CAD as an advantage. It was a journey for me to learn it and play with it and use it for different things. And I had fun doing it. I didn't know that it would end up leading to this where I could actually use it to make a living. But you say, well, you know how to do CAD. But here's the other half of that story. Like as we started sharing ideas and we started doing what we were doing, it started out, we would go on Skype and I would share my CAD screen to him and we would start talking. And a couple of times he said, man, I wish I could do that because I could get ideas out of my head. And I said, you can do it. So literally in a matter of hours, he had gone on and bought the same CAD program that I had. And we spent a lot of hours on screen share back and forth. So I say that I don't know a lot of people at Todd's age and, that would say, I'm going to take on learning CAD at this point to be able to contribute from my side or my thought process to be able to put it into motion too. So he did, and it's been game changer because he can sit there middle of the night, day, whatever, put his idea into that 3D space, my ideas in that 3D space, and the ability to see them like that at the same time and me actually see what he is seeing in his head and vice versa changed the whole deal. So yeah, I know how to do CAD, but he's learned, he's taken it on, and it's like not a lot of people would have done that. And that's another whole journey on this journey, aside from actually doing all of the parts and pieces. He's learned how to do that, and it helps us translate the idea much faster. And I'm 100% convinced we get to a better solution because now he can get his idea directly out of his head so much more accurate than a sketch on a napkin. Mm-hmm. And I see his picture, he sees my picture, and we get to the middle faster that way. So,
yeah, and I bought a 3D printer as well, same kind as he has. So he's been helping me with that as well. But when we first designed these rails and I had my TDN card, I went off and just started printing all kinds of stuff. I started designing and printing any kind of holder I thought I could print for, to go on this. And now they won't necessarily translate over to the way we're building our holders, but they get the idea out and we can build off of that. I made a glue gun holder. I made a buffer holder. I made window wedge holders. I made all kinds of stuff that would fit all over the TDN card and on our rails. So
I've done it. I've done it enough with different things. You can think an idea in your head, and this is what I tried to tell him when I thought it was worth him, if he was willing to do CAD, learn it, that what it would open up for him. You can scratch it on a napkin. You can think about it in your head, but as you start to see it evolve on that screen, it often changes. It changes right before your eyes. You go, oh, well, I was thinking that would work, but now it won't. So he can solve a lot of those things in his head with his idea while I'm doing it in my idea. And we're sorting out problems as we're starting to get towards the finish line. It's made a huge difference. It's changed the whole process, and we lose Matt.
Yeah,
No, he's on mute.
Sorry. I was gonna say what you should
No,
do.
I'm just saying it's been critical to the whole evolution of this. So
Give each other access to each other's printer, and you late at night can design something and print it on Todd's printer. When he wakes up, he's got this part that you designed last night. Like that's pretty cool.
It's been, he's been able to send me files and I've been able to print them. So it's kind of a quick way. But yeah, it's pretty cool how you can solve, say, 10% of the problems in your head. Then you put it on CAD, you can solve another 20, maybe 30 or 40%. And then you 3D print it, and then you can solve all the problems at that point. I mean, it's amazing how fast you can go from
That's cool.
an idea to a finished product. And I don't necessarily, I'm not that great as far as getting a real finished product out of it, but if I can get it close, then Chad can put the fine touches on most of it. So,
well, it's a money saver too. You know what I mean? Because before you would send shit to the machine shop to get it made or the mill or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get it back and you're like, yeah, this is not going to work,
Yeah.
So,
and then you got to wait another 2-3 weeks to get another one made.
now
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, one missing piece that I see on this whole cart, one thing, see, look at Todd laughing because he knows the rest of it's still coming, but window guard holder.
Oh yeah.
It's coming.
So
those brackets that you were talking about, the threaded inserts, there just may be something that may be one of the things that's planned there. Maybe.
We talked about also putting maybe some kind of strap that would go around the tool holders, something, maybe a plastic that would bolt on those 4 corners at the top. So if a guy's got a fully loaded cart in his van, he could slap those things on with some knobs and keep anything from potentially falling out. I think most everything's pretty tight, but you just, you're hitting bumps and all that stuff. You never know what could fall out, but sure help a guy that's traveling or whatever.
it's a good
There's
idea.
all kinds of stuff.
We really want this to be just the very beginning of where this goes. Like the very beginning. We've talked about part. We've kidded around about this thing could be X number of SKUs and part count and blah blah blah, and that's what we're open for. It's an enormous amount of work to get each of them done, but we're convinced that some tools can only be dealt with a certain way and actually work correctly. They're going to take a very specific solution. And we set out to solve them. It's going to take some time, and we'll have to prioritize which ones are first and which ones are last. But if we don't solve them and make them particular to each tool that's particular in our industry, we're going to be left with a compromise like we've been dealing with for a lot of years, where you're just sticking something in a hole or you're setting something on the shelf or whatever. Our goal is for everything to be more catered and more diligent, intentional. We have some really odd tools in this industry, if you think about it, compared to other industries. They're not screwdrivers. They're not wrenches. They're funny shapes, long lengths, odd. They're very different than other standard tools. So we just have accepted that we've got to deal with them differently than screwdrivers and wrenches.
Now, you do have some other options besides just this carbon cart. I don't know if you want to just kind of point it out behind you. They have 2 plastic carts. If you want to get into that, Chad, just so people know there's other options that are a little more cost effective for them.
Like we said earlier, we decided to use the carbon fiber frame. It's great for a traveling guy. It's great for somebody that needs high speed setup and tear down and needs it to go in a small place. But I know we've watched the industry. A lot of guys are in shops. A lot of guys don't travel anymore. A lot of guys, it's just different scenarios. So the expense in the carbon cart is the fact that it travels so well. So it evolved into us being able to take the same components, the same rails, the same corners, and mount them on 2 different size plastic 3-tub cart like everybody's used to. We're doing some pretty heavy modification in-house and permanently attaching the whole system to it. But it gives a guy in a shop or a guy that just doesn't need to travel as high speed as the carbon fiber cart does access to the system at a lower price entry point. They actually hold more tools. They're really easy to work out of. As you can see on the one in the middle, they accept basically all of the same accessories because all of the components are congruent. So I actually really like them. I like the way they've turned out and the way they would work for a guy in a shop or even the right hail guy that can travel that way. And they're just a much more acceptable price range if you don't need that high speed travel. So,
Chad, how much of a modification on those plastic carts from a standard Rubbermaid cart you might get anywhere? How much of a modification is made to that top piece to accommodate what we see there?
So the problem is, if you look at this cart with this bridge setup on it, every dimension is critical in the system for all the components to work. Even the spacing on all the tool holders is critical for everything to land where it needs to. So you can't take just any cart and just screw stuff to the side of it and it end up at those critical dimensions, and then everything relates. So everything is built off what I had to do was take the frame that I need, the frame size that I need to make all of my components work, and then build spacers and offsets to bolt up to the plastic cart to put all of my points in space in the right place so that all the accessories work. So there's machining, there's a bunch of countersunk holes, a bunch of very precise, dimension spacers that put all of these corner holes and all of those dimensions right where we need them in space, so everything works together.
So the tray that those red things recess into is part of the cart, and then you're upfitting it with this ring or halo that goes around it. That is the tool holders.
Yeah, and those carts also come with a big plastic handle that's part of the molded part, so that all has to be machined off.
Oh.
I mean, it's big too. It's a big deal.
Yeah, but it all, like what it does too is, because all the corners are bolted up, then the rails bolted in the corners. There's a lot of redundancy in the system. I think you'll see that now, Ryan, like when you see it in person. We didn't want just plastic that was welded or even bolted in one place. Like, the corner is not only critical to the tool holders and the finishing off the corner, it's also structural. It ties the rails in from both directions. There's multiple bolts coming from multiple different directions to tie that whole assembly together. So it actually ties that whole top tub, like it really solidifies. It's like an exoskeleton, if that, basically around and bolted through and around and down and all of that to tie it all together. It's not a huge issue when it's on, but I wanted it when it comes off. And everybody's taking those plastic carts apart. When you take the legs off of them, they start to get a little, you lose some of the rigidity. Well, the top now is all tied together. That exoskeleton kind of holds everything together where you can set it in the truck and travel with it, and keep that assembly, exactly how it needs to be for everything to work.
Now that bridge goes up and down, correct? It telescopes up and down.
Correct. You can see it on that cart. It rides in the corners. The carbon fiber cart, the risers actually drop into the legs of the carbon fiber frame, just like the hood stand risers would. So those set screws loosen, and the risers will slide up and down for height adjustability. And then on your cart, Ryan, you would back the knob off, and the legs would slide or telescope out of the carbon fiber stand legs to adjust height. And they actually store in the stand on the carbon fiber version to travel.
Yeah, man. I mean, the quality is just the little touches. I mean, it's when Chad and I talk quite a bit, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna add some bling to it. And I'm like, bling? You know, how can you be any more bling than like a machined aluminum part? But I think the red, I mean, it is red. It could have been orange, would have been even better. But you know,
I like the red.
red looks pretty good. You know what I mean? It really does.
You're 3-1 right now, so you lose.
I know.
Trust me, we wanted green, but the trays only came in red, so we were kind of stuck on that. But it looks really good. Everybody's seen my tools. I don't have any color on any of my tools except for my stickers. So the reason why I've always done that is just time. I mean, it just takes too much time to go have stuff anodized or powder coated or anything like that, and it's just another expense and another something it's not functional really in a way. But when we started building this cart and I started looking at it and I saw those red trays going, I was like, man, we gotta put all the red accents on this thing, because it's just, it's an expensive cart. It's carbon fiber. We wanted it to be the Rolls Royce kind of thing, or the Ferrari of tool carts. So it deserved to have that extra time put in and stuff. So it's pretty awesome.
I've kind of expressed this to Ryan, and the more time we've spent with it, I think the more it rings true. Like, you buy a new tool and you get really excited about a new tool because if it performs its job really well for you, you find some way to make money with it. You find some way that it helps you on the daily basis. But once you get a cart dialed, if you've got 50 or 60 tools on that cart then has an overall effect on those. It has some input or effect on the efficiency of those 50 or 60 tools that ride on it. It's not just a singular tool that's pushing a dent at one specific time or minute in the day. It actually it has an effect on the whole system, the whole ecosystem of your workday. And I say that because that's what grew into the little accents and the details, is because it's a pretty intimate, like you're spending a lot of time with this thing if you're working every day, and you may end up spending more time next to or with this cart than you do any one single tool by itself, because they're all on, what I'm saying? Like, some of the tools may be left in the truck, but if the cart's out, it's always there. I know for me over the years and the 4 builds that I've done before this, they're very important to my daily operations. So it becomes a real important part of your life and the way that your day goes. So that's why we felt like it needed to have those little details that, they're not necessary, but if you're going to spend that much time with it, why not?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I posted it the other day. I mean, hats off to you guys, because I know, how much time and effort you guys have put into this, and all of it, the mod rails to the plastic carts to the carbon carts, and hats off to you guys. I mean, you guys, and like I said, me as a consumer, it's badass. I mean, it's really, I'll let you know in a couple months when I'm like, okay, I've got this. And Chad keeps saying that. I can't wait to hear your input, because I'm running with no cart. You know what I mean? So I'm in a total different class of figuring it out, what works for me. But you guys did a really good job. I mean, every inch has been really, really thought out.
Well, I'd like to point something out about this versus some of the other carts out there. Everything's in such small components that if anything breaks, it's all replaceable. Whereas, some of these carts with the one-piece tops it breaks or it bends or it gets messed up, you got to replace the whole top. Or ours, you could break 10 of those, tool holders and replace them all for really cheap. That's the beauty of it. And you can replace it quickly. You don't have to replace the whole cart or a big section of the cart,
Yeah.
And I think that's, not something that people are going to see right away, but they're going to see down the road.
Sure.
As they have the cart for a year, maybe 2 years, that, maybe something starts to wear out or something breaks, they can replace it pretty quick and easy. And that's, I think, a huge, huge deal.
I think what's cool, with some other guys have pointed out on the group is that even when the cart, if some guys who travel with toppers or whatever, or the smaller transit vans where they can load it in with the tools on it, but you need to somehow get a tool out that you can still pull it directly out without trying to. The old style with a hole, you can't get out because the ceiling of your topper or your van's too tall. Those you can still access all your tools from, from the sides and not have to pull the whole cart out to do the one tool, one random off in it. That's pretty cool.
I think that's something me and Chad didn't even think about. I don't think it's ever crossed our conversation, but that's what all the feedback we're going to be getting is like that is super important for us.
And that cart, Chad said something earlier today. I have a Silverado with a full size cap on it. That'll fit in there without a problem. So, you guys that are running trucks with caps, it fits. The way that cart's set up right now, it'll physically go up in the bed all together. I mean, I don't know how much you want to lift it up, but it fits.
Matt made mention at the beginning of the show about sitting down on a stool and being able to pull a tool out. That was not something that I realized the benefit of until the first few times I did it. Because maybe we're similar. If I'm working in a certain place, I want to be on my stool because my eyes are in the right place. I'm comfortable. I love having my stool if I'm on a certain part of the car. But you did the same motion, Matt, like where you're trying to fish the tool up out of the hole and keep it from falling over on the car. Yeah. That wasn't intentionally designed, or we weren't thinking about that in the process. But the first few times that I did it and I realized that it come out like this now, rather than having to do that out of the hole, it's just a secondary benefit to it coming out that way, that it wasn't like that was on the checklist of things to accomplish, but it did end up accomplishing that. So that translates over to be able to get something out of the van. I never thought about that. That's not how my setup is. When we started hearing guys say that, it's just a secondary effect of the way the holders work, that it's cool to hear.
Sure.
Well, obviously, guys can find it at 2mb1.com. Now, what's the availability of this stuff? Is stuff ready to ship? What's the...
Yeah, we've got a couple of each, or one or two of each of the first run. We've got more stuff inbound. It's a constantly evolving landscape. Parts coming, things changing. We're building. I'm going to pick one model and build a run of those, and then I'll jump into the next model. I'm not sure which one will be next, but I'll start on that real soon. And we'll start where this one, I kind of built some of each of them. It will now translate into more of a run of this size and a run of that size, and we'll work through each three of the variations. So there's certainly going to be some limited availability for a while, just because of how much is involved in putting them together and obtaining all of the parts at the same time to make it happen. So, but we're pushing as hard as we can.
Well, like I said before, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
So I was going to say, so your lineup of full products would be, right? And then you have your full carbon cart. Then you have the two Rubbermaid style carts. And then you still have the other retrofit cart top for some of the Pro PDR style mast carts, right?
Correct. Yep.
So you've got a good lineup there of products.
Yeah, a lot more than we thought about when we first started this journey. I can tell you that, about 4 more than we thought.
we talked of a cart being singular. and it's evolved into a system. But that, I think we both are happy that it has, because we don't want to just address the cart. Matt is doing it. I'm doing it. We want to address the walls in the shop, the van. We've kind of called it a tool management system, and it's kind of evolved into us calling it that, so that it's left it being that singular cart. Again, it's going to take some time to accomplish it as a whole, but we want to address the cart really well, and then hopefully anywhere else that you could put a tool on the daily, van, shop wall, anywhere.
Yeah,
So-
I dig it.
We wanted it to be kind of, I mean, when we very first started talking, and he was kind of talking about some ideas, and I said, it has to be modular. We have to do a modular cart because everybody's got different tools. I said, it can't just be one type of holder, it has to be, my idea was like kind of like a Build-A-Bear deal where you could just go, if we could design the website where you could just go in and click on all the parts and it would kind of show you a rendering of what your cart would look like. That would be the ideal, but that's kind of where the ideas come from, of how we develop this thing.
And it is definitely tough when you order to figure out what foams to buy. And Chad told me I put a tape square on the floor, knew how many slots we had, laid out the tools that I thought was going to go in the cart, and then ordered those foams. The good thing is one thing that I really like is this thing can grow with you.
Mm-hmm.
And the foams are so cost effective. They're not real expensive. So you can always order more and change. Okay, I want 6 more 1/2 inch over here, or 6 more 1/4. I like that you're not stuck buying another $100 piece or whatever. You can grow with this thing for a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah. The foams come in packs of 2s per size and packs of 10 per size. And then we got a 14 pack of assorted. And, there's something that definitely the foams will wear out, but that's the beauty of it is for $6 you can buy a set of 2 and replace them, or what is it for a set of 10, 20, $28 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can really quickly tune up your cart, whether it's for the next hail season or whenever you feel like doing it.
I think you were on to it a minute ago talking about not tightening everything up, and I've tried to stress that to people because I know mine's changed numerous times of how I wanted it laid out. My advice would be to start really slow. Like, get the stuff on there that you know is critical. In the place that you think it's critical, it still may change, but then start filling in the gaps. Like, the first one, I thought I could lay everything out all at once. I tightened everything up, and like 45 minutes later, I was going, I don't want those there anymore, and I don't like those there. It was stuff. It was preconceived thoughts that I had from other carts of and how I built those out. This is totally different, and the layout can be very different. So I would say start really slow, even if it's by foam slow. Like, you may not have to buy the whole lot if you know you're not going to put 50 or 60 tools on there, and then put the first 20 on, figure out what's next, and then fill in the gaps. That's how I've done it the last few times I've played with laying it out, and it seems to work better for me than trying to think about it as a whole. But I do it on the floor, just like you were saying, Ryan. I like lay everything out and try to picture it that way, and then pick what goes where.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you guys putting the time in and trying to dial this thing in. And I've been on Chad's ass saying, when is this thing going to be done? When is this thing going to be done? When it just here's my card number. Just send it to me. And he's like, soon enough. And when Chad's quiet, something's going on. So I appreciate you guys. I hope the industry appreciate you guys, and keep building, man. You guys are killing it with this stuff, and if people, soon as one of these hit a huge hail site and guys are using it, you guys are in trouble.
I know. That's what I'm scared of. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys. Appreciate the support. Matt, we really appreciate all your feedback since you're kind of an early buy-in. It's been awesome to get that from you. And it's really just, it's already sparked a bunch of ideas. And what was this Frank is showing the last couple of days is pretty awesome too. I mean, that's exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
We can't. There's still a lot left to think about in this system, and we're at the point where it's going to take everybody's input to really dial it in. And we appreciate both of you guys buying in early and being able to, or being willing to support what we're doing. Appreciate it. So,
of course.
Yeah, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I can foresee this being a 10 or 15, maybe 20-page website, just in add-ons. It's just we come up with ideas all the time, but I mean, a lot of times they come up and they just go on the back burner, or sometimes we forget about them for a while, and then we bring them back up and move again. But man, I mean, the idea is just nonstop.
We talked a good bit about organization, Matt, and stuff like that. And at first I was starting to think it was maybe going to get too complex, but I've mentioned it before. If you look at any other industry, if you look at other tool systems, mechanics, what they spend and how the extent that they go to organize their tools is massive.
Yeah.
In any other industry. So we just felt like that was the only way to really address the problem. Yeah, it creates more parts and more work and more things to keep up with. But really, when you get down to it, everybody's having to do that to have a really specified solution for their tools.
Mm-hmm.
We just never really done it in our industry. Exactly. Those guys are fanatical about where those sockets go and where those wrenches go, the way it looks. It's been done with wrenches and sockets for a long time. We're at the beginning of stages trying to do it with our goofy tools in this industry. So
yeah, I bet. I mean, a good mechanic is probably into 20 grand just in tool management, not even tools.
Yeah.
Well, some of it's conditioning, right? I mean, we've been conditioned to just make things work. I mean, that's how our industry started. Even with tools, we didn't have design tools. We were making things work, snap-on screwdrivers and whatever we had. And so it's just the evolution of this industry to me that you're seeing right now is we're getting out of the make things work. Let's design things for, intention.
Yeah.
And that's cool, man. I dig that. I can get on board with that for sure, because I mean, it's how you view what you do. Do you view what you do as a professional? When you go to mechanic and he's got all the sockets thrown all over a table with, or he's got this toolbox that you pull out and everything's wiped clean and not greasy and like goes, where it's supposed to go. It's like, dude, I want that guy working on my car.
Yeah.
I was in the other day on the service department, and this guy had stuff everywhere, engine parts. And I was looking at him. I was standing there waiting to talk to somebody, and I'm like, there is no way I would bring my car here to get worked on. Absolutely not. Because something isn't going back. That's just.
I asked somebody just the other day, and we've all probably been in that shop where the lead mechanic has all of the Snap-on or Matco. Everything's dialed. Everything's perfect. His cart that he works out of is perfect. My thought was, you take that guy with hyper organization and attention to detail and setup, and you scrap all that, and you give him a plastic cart or a roll-around cart with a bunch of sockets and wrenches dumped on it, and tell him to make his hours for the week. He's going to lose his mind, because for the last 20 years, he's been working under that level of organization. He's going to lose his mind.
Sure.
We've been kind of like dealing with less than optimum organization because that's just what we've had. Well, if you give that to any other guy in any other industry that's used to organization, he's going to lose his mind. Mm-hmm. So, I kind of feel like we got to try to catch up to some of those other industries and catch up to the specifics that how they've addressed their issues. We got to address ours.
And I think it's perception too. I think our industry's changed a lot to where obviously we're getting more money for the repairs. And me personally, I roll into a shop with a gun case with a Carbon Tech rod in it, and the hood stand, you open it up and everybody in the shop's like, holy shit, what and then you've got another guy working another thing with a little fold out aluminum hood stand sitting on a stool fixing it. And, you know, in our business, it's perception now. You know, you want the guy with the technology, you know, the quality stuff. And obviously we all can't start there. I mean, it took me, I don't know how many years. I looked at Todd a couple years after I bought my hail rod, and I came to him and said, look, I owe you some beer. And he's like, why'd you wait so long? And I'm like, I didn't think I needed it. But let me tell you, you know, it's as soon as you implement some of these things, it changes everything.
Yeah. Ryan, I got to apologize about the little green pin on the lower hinge. 'Cause it's straight off the Carbon Tech.
I know. I was going to
stand,
say something. I said something to Chad, and I said all the detail in this whole card. Okay, and that's me. I'm weird with stuff like that, and I'm like, it's got a freaking green pin at the bottom of the card.
The red ones are coming. They're coming. They're coming. Todd's been like uber hung up on that for the last couple of weeks. I have too, but like he's been tweaked pretty bad about that. And
but see, if you didn't know. If you didn't have a hood stand, you wouldn't know where it came from. You'd be like, what the hell? And I know from having the hood stand. So, but yeah, I said something. I actually said something to Boyetti too. I was like, I love this thing. It's so like perfect, but it's got this damn green pin.
I know. It can be any other damn color.
That's just the little inkling of heritage of 2MB1. Because I'm a green guy. Like, I wanted this thing green so bad. I like the red now. It's really grown on me, but I am a black and green guy to the core. So that, just think of that as that's the DNA left there for you to think about. So,
you know, but I was just, even my wife, when I got it here and I got it unboxed and she's looking at it and she's like, why is that green?
Yeah. Trust me. It was like one of those things. Well, we didn't put that hinge on until, I mean, we didn't remove that front X and the hinge until not even probably a month ago. So, I mean, that was really a last minute thought. And so, you know, it takes time to get those things made in the right color and all that stuff. I mean, even the wheel bungs, the red wheel bungs, those were, I mean, we were almost ready to start shipping these things. And we're like, let's X those legs. I think they're going to be a little weak if somebody stands it up higher. And let's go to an aluminum bung. So those were made last minute too. And
I love the height of that cart.
Yeah.
Is perfect. And there's another thing I wonder, I know we're getting ready to get off, but there's something we didn't talk about real quick. And I want to show them. And Chad brought it to my attention. In the V's of the mod rails, you can even take a tool and just set across and it sits in those V's. So it literally can sit like this. I don't know if you could see that, but I didn't want to move the camera. But it literally will just sit in there, so it's quick access too. But
yeah,
great job, man. This thing is, I can just see the growth in it. I feel bad for you guys because everybody that gets one's going to be, hey, can you make this? Hey, can we, you know, it's going to be that constant evolving. So
yeah,
fantastic job. You guys keep doing it. You know, like I said, you guys should get an applause for this thing because it's badass.
So mod rails are ready to ship.
Yeah.
And some of the carts are kind of on order by batches. Is that how it's working right now?
There's a few carts left from that first run. Like I said, I'm going to pick early next week, probably pick another one of the sizes that seems to work the best right now, and I'll build out the remainder of the inventory that we have of that size, and then I'll move to the next one. So that's really the only way we can do it right now, just because of the complexity of the assembly and the parts count. I've got to kind of stay on one size to get through them as fast as possible. But we're going to go as hard as we can go, and the fact, you know, as we start to get parts faster, and everything will continually get quicker. Hopefully, by the time we're in the hail season, whatever demand is there, we'll be able to meet it.
Right now, Chad's hand making every one of those tool holders, every one of the corners, every one of the trays, everything. And we're working on plastic injection. In fact, we just got samples back for the corners and for the tool holders. Once we get those into production, that's going to speed things up a lot. So just, you know, people, I hope they can understand that and bear with us. But we're moving as fast as we can. I mean, unfortunately, we do have a few left out of our first run, but it's kind of one of those crazy times of year, when hail's just now starting to kick off and, guys are down. They're not really spending money at this time. March is always, slow. So
I'm telling you, as soon as someone physically sees one and touches it, it's over.
Yeah, May will be the big month.
I'm gonna sell one on Sunday. Watch. I got the Dent Reaper coming here, and
yeah,
we're looking forward to an MTE or an in-person show because
yes,
we know it's difficult to get the gist of it over pictures and video. You really need to stand next to it and feel it. So we can't wait for some in-person shows where we can stand around and shoot the bull about this thing with people in person and let people actually feel it rather than just look at pictures. So
yeah. Well, great
Absolutely.
guys, great job, guys, and keep up the good work. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for giving us time.
thank you guys both.
Appreciate you guys watching. Boyette, I appreciate it, buddy.
Yep, absolutely.
You guys have a great night and keep it real. See you
Thank
guys
you.
next
Thanks,
week.
guys.
See y'all.
See ya.